The lecture hall was huge. More than 300 students sat in rows that went up like stairs. They came from different planets, different species, all different colors and shapes. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like they were made of living crystal. The air smelled strange, a mix of all these different alien scents. Hyunwoo sat in the middle section with his electronic notebook ready. He was human, which made him unusual here. Only 12 humans studied at the Galactic University. Most aliens still found humans interesting in a weird way. They would stare at him in the hallways and whisper to each other. Hyunwoo had gotten used to it after 6 months. Next to him sat Ara. She was a Quellan, which meant her skin was see-through and changed colors based on how she felt. Right now she was light purple, which meant she was nervous. On his other side sat Jiho, the only other human in this class. Jiho was his best friend at the university. "Do you think she'll actually do it?" Jiho whispered. "The demonstration everyone's been talking about?" "Probably," Hyunwoo said. Professor Velshara loves to shock people. At the front of the hall stood Professor Velshara. She was a Crithian, which meant she looked like a giant insect standing on 2 legs. She had 4 arms, huge compound eyes, and mandibles that clicked when she talked. She was one of the most famous teachers in the whole galaxy. Professor Velshara raised one of her arms. The room went quiet. "Today," she announced, her voice coming through the translation device everyone wore, "you will see something special. You will witness the hunting instincts of Vextar cubs." The room filled with whispers. Vextar were famous across the galaxy. They were apex predators, which meant nothing hunted them. They were the top of the food chain. They looked like big cats but had 6 legs and fangs made of crystal. People said they could track prey across entire planets just by smell. Ara turned completely white. That meant she was terrified. "Don't worry," Hyunwoo told her. "They're just babies." "How dangerous can they be?" Professor Velshara continued her explanation. "These cubs are only 3 months old, but even at this age, their hunting instincts are perfect. I will release 3 cubs into this room. You must all stay very still. The cubs will use their senses to find prey." She looked around the room with her huge eyes. "They will choose the weakest one, the most vulnerable, the one that smells like fear. This is how nature works. This is the predator-prey relationship that exists everywhere in the universe." Hyunwoo felt his stomach get tight. He wasn't scared exactly, but he wasn't comfortable either. Next to him, Ara had become almost invisible. That was bad. That meant she was really afraid. 3 containers were brought to the front. They were made of clear material so everyone could see inside. In each container was a small creature. They looked like kittens, but strange kittens. They had 6 legs, oversized paws, and their fur seemed to glow with its own light. Their fangs were tiny but looked sharp and clear like diamond. "When I open these containers," Professor Velshara said, "remain absolutely still. Do not make sounds. Do not move. Let the cubs do what nature programmed them to do." Hyunwoo could feel his heart beating fast. Around the room, students were frozen in their seats. Some were holding their breath. Ara was shaking. Professor Velshara pressed a button. The 3 containers opened with a soft hiss. The cubs stepped out carefully. They were small, maybe the size of a regular Earth cat, but the way they moved was different. It was smooth and careful like trained hunters. Their heads turned, looking at all the students. Their noses lifted, sniffing the air. The room was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The 3 cubs started walking down the center aisle. Their 6 legs moved in perfect rhythm. Their ears rotated like radar dishes, catching every tiny sound. Their glowing fur made them easy to see in the dark lecture hall. Students pressed back in their seats as the cubs walked past. One alien student made a small whimpering sound. The cubs' heads turned toward the sound, but they kept walking. They were looking for something specific. Hunting for the perfect target. Hyunwoo watched them come closer. He tried to stay still, but it was hard. The cubs were now only a few rows away. He could see their eyes clearly now. They were intelligent eyes, not just animal eyes. These creatures were smart. Suddenly, all 3 cubs stopped at the same time. Their ears perked up straight. Their noses lifted high, sniffing deeply. Then, as if they had planned it, all 3 turned their heads in the same direction. They were looking directly at Hyunwoo. "Oh no," Jiho whispered. "Don't move." But the cubs weren't moving like hunters anymore. Something had changed in their body language. Instead of the low, careful walk that Professor Velshara had described, they were moving faster. almost running. Students scrambled out of the way as the cubs climbed over seats and desks. They knocked over bags and notebooks. But they weren't interested in anyone else. They had one target. Hyunwoo, stay still, someone shouted. Hyunwoo put his hands up, trying to protect himself. He expected claws and teeth and pain. But that's not what happened. The first cub jumped into his lap. The second one climbed up his chest. The third one draped itself over his shoulders like a scarf, and then they started making sounds, purring sounds. The cubs were purring, loud rumbling purrs that made Hyunwoo's chest vibrate. One of them pushed its head under his chin. Another one started kneading his arm with its paws, but the claws were pulled in, not out. The third one rubbed its face against his cheek over and over. They weren't hunting him. They were cuddling him. The entire lecture hall stared in complete silence. 300 students and one professor, all frozen, all watching this impossible thing. Professor Velshara's mandibles opened and closed, but no sound came out. She looked confused, maybe for the first time in her long teaching career. This is not, she tried to say. This has never happened before. The cubs cuddled closer to Hyunwoo. One of them closed its eyes and seemed to fall asleep in his lap. Another one licked his hand with a rough tongue. They were acting like pets, like babies who had found their parent. I'm not doing anything, Hyunwoo said. His voice sounded strange because one cub was pressed against his throat. They just came to me. Jiho had his phone out, recording everything. Dude, you're like a predator whisperer or something. Professor Velshara came down from the stage slowly. She reached out one of her arms toward the cubs, trying to pick one up. The moment her claw touched the cub's fur, everything changed. The cub hissed. It was a terrible sound, loud and angry. Its crystal fangs came out, long and sharp and deadly. Its eyes narrowed. It looked ready to attack. Every student in the room flinched back. Ara actually vanished completely from fear. Professor Velshara pulled her arm back quickly. Remarkable, she said quietly. They're protecting him. When she stepped away, the cub immediately stopped hissing. Its fangs went back in. It started purring again and rubbed against Hyunwoo's chest like nothing had happened. Someone get the dean, Professor Velshara said, and call the xenobiology department. All of them. We have a situation here. Hyunwoo sat very still with 3 purring predator cubs cuddled against him. He had come to class expecting a normal lecture. Instead, something had happened that nobody could explain. Something that shouldn't be possible. And somehow he knew his life had just changed forever. 2 hours later, Hyunwoo sat in a small room with white walls. The 3 cubs were still with him. They refused to leave. Every time someone tried to take them away, they would hiss and show their fangs. But with Hyunwoo, they were calm and gentle. They purred and slept and played with his fingers. Through a window, he could see professors arguing. Lots of them. They were waving their arms, tentacles, and other limbs around. They looked upset and confused. Some of them kept pointing at him. Jiho sat next to him, also watching through the window. You're famous now. This is going to be all over the university network by tomorrow. Great, Hyunwoo said without enthusiasm. One of the cubs, the smallest one, was asleep in his lap. Just what I wanted. To be the weird human who predators love. The door opened. A huge alien walked in. He had scales like a lizard but stood on 2 legs like a man. His arms were thick with muscle and his face had scars across it. This was Dean Crossar, the head of the entire university. He was known for being strict and scary. Behind him came Professor Velshara and several other professors. One of them was human. Professor Taemin was the only human teacher at the university. He taught human studies, helping aliens understand how humans worked. Dean Crossar looked at Hyunwoo for a long moment. Then he looked at the cubs. Explain what happened, he said. His voice was deep and rough. Professor Velshara stepped forward. The demonstration was standard procedure. 3 Vextar cubs, 3 months old, released in a controlled environment. They should have identified the weakest prey in the room based on scent and fear signals. But, Dean Crossar said, they ignored everyone else. They went straight to the human, and then they displayed bonding behavior, not hunting behavior. They treated him like a parent. Professor Taemin spoke up. Has this ever happened before? With any species? Never, Professor Velshara said. Her mandibles clicked nervously. Vextar cubs are extremely predictable. They follow their instincts perfectly. This shouldn't be possible. A small alien with blue skin that glowed stepped forward. This was Dr. Mira. She was a scientist who studied chemistry and biology. We ran tests on the human while you were meeting. Blood tests, scent analysis, everything we could do quickly. And? Dean Crosser asked. Dr. Mira made her skin glow brighter, which meant she was excited. The cubs are responding to chemicals in the human scent. When humans feel emotions, their bodies make certain chemicals. These chemicals come out through their skin in sweat and breath. The cubs can smell these chemicals. Many species produce scent chemicals, Professor Velshara said. Why would these specific ones matter? Because, Dr. Mira said, pulling up images on a screen, the chemicals humans produce are almost the same as the chemicals adult Vextar produce. Not exactly the same, but close enough. To these cubs, the human smells like a parent, like family. The room went quiet. Everyone stared at the screen, then at Hyunwoo, then back at the screen. That's impossible, Professor Velshara said. Humans and Vextar come from planets hundreds of light years apart. They have no biological connection. How could they produce the same chemicals? We don't know yet, Dr. Mira admitted. But the evidence is clear. To Vextar cubs, humans smell like home. Dean Crosser turned to Professor Taman. Is this specific to this one human? Or is it all humans? Professor Taman looked at Jiho. We need to test another human. Jiho, would you be willing to help? Jiho nodded. Sure, what do I need to do? Come with me, Dr. Mira said. We have other Vextar cubs in the biology lab. Older ones, almost teenagers. We'll see how they react to you. Jiho followed the doctors out of the room. Hyunwoo waited with the cubs, watching through the window as they set up the test in the room next door. They brought in a cage with 2 Vextar cubs inside. These ones were bigger, almost the size of large dogs. Their fangs were longer and looked more dangerous. The cage opened. The cubs stepped out carefully. They looked around the room, suspicious and alert. Then Jiho walked in. The reaction was instant. Both cubs' ears perked up. Their noses lifted. And then they ran to Jiho just like the smaller cubs had run to Hyunwoo. They rubbed against him, purred, and tried to climb into his arms. Through the window, Hyunwoo could see Professor Taman talking quickly with the other scientists. They were checking equipment, looking at screens, comparing data. When Jiho came back, he was grinning. Well, that was weird. They acted like I was their long-lost brother or something. Dr. Mira returned to the meeting room. It's confirmed. All humans produce the scent signature. Both human subjects triggered the same bonding response in different Vextar cubs of different ages. This is incredible, Professor Taman said quietly. Humans have been in the galaxy for 30 years. We've met hundreds of species, but this is the first time we've found a species that has this kind of connection with us. Professor Velshara's mandibles clicked rapidly. What about adult Vextar? These are cubs. They're programmed to look for parents. But adult Vextar are apex predators. They don't bond with prey. They hunt it. Nobody answered. That was the question everyone was afraid to ask. Dean Crosser stood up. His scaled face was serious. We need more research. Dr. Mira, I want a full chemical analysis. Professor Taman, look into human biology and find out why humans produce these chemicals. Professor Velshara, contact the Vextar homeworld authorities. We need to know everything about their bonding behavior. What about the cubs? Professor Velshara asked, looking at the 3 creatures cuddled with Hyunwoo. Standard procedure is to return them to containment. One of the cubs opened one eye and looked at her. It made a small warning sound. I don't think they want to go, Jiho said. Dean Crosser sighed, a sound like rocks grinding. Keep them with the human for now. Under supervision. If they become dangerous, we'll separate them immediately. But the scientific value of this situation is too important to ignore. He looked at Hyunwoo. You understand that your life is about to become very complicated? Every scientist in the university will want to study you. The Galactic News will probably hear about this. You'll be famous. I just wanted to pass my xenobiology class, Hyunwoo said weakly. Well, Dean Crosser said, showing his teeth in what might have been a smile, I think you'll get an A. After the meeting ended, Hyunwoo and Jiho walked back to their dorm room. The 3 cubs followed Hyunwoo like ducklings following their mother. Students stopped and stared. Some took pictures. Some ran away. This is so weird, Jiho said. We came to this university to learn about aliens. Now you're basically adopted by predator cubs. What do I do with them? Hyunwoo asked. I can't keep them in my dorm room. They're going to get bigger. A lot bigger. The university will figure something out, Jiho said. But dude, think about what this means. Humans can bond with apex predators. No other species can do that. That's amazing. One of the cubs chirped happily and jumped onto Hyunwoo's shoulder. It was getting heavy. In a few months, it would be too big to carry. Back in his dorm room, Hyunwoo tried to do homework while the cubs explored everything. They sniffed his books, played with his clothes, and tried to eat his snacks. They were curious about everything, just like kittens, but they weren't kittens. They were Vextar, apex predators, and for some reason they thought Hyunwoo was family. He looked at the smallest cub, the one that liked to sleep in his lap. "What am I going to do with you?" he asked. The cub just purred and closed its eyes. Hyunwoo sighed. His simple life as a university student was over. Now he was part of something bigger, something that nobody understood yet, and somehow he had a feeling this was just the beginning. 3 weeks passed. Hyunwoo's life changed completely. He couldn't go anywhere without the cubs following him. The university gave him a special room, bigger than his old dorm, with space for the growing Vextar. They were getting bigger fast. What had been cute kittens were now the size of medium dogs. He named them. The smallest one, who always wanted to cuddle, was Hanul. The playful one who knocked things over was Bora. The protective one who hissed at strangers was Dari. The names were Korean, from his home language. It made them feel more like family. Every day, scientists came to study them. They took measurements, ran tests, and asked endless questions. Hyunwoo spent more time in labs than in classes. His professors understood. Some of them were the ones running the tests. Dr. Mira visited every morning. Her blue skin would glow with excitement as she checked new data. "Your body chemistry is fascinating," she told Hyunwoo one day. "When you're happy, you produce more of the bonding chemicals. When you're stressed, the chemicals change slightly. The cubs can tell your emotions just by smell." "That's kind of scary," Hyunwoo said. Hanul was asleep on his feet, making it hard to walk. "It's beautiful," Dr. Mira corrected him. "It's a form of communication that goes deeper than words. These cubs understand you in a way most species never could." Professor Taemin was working with a graduate student named Soyeon. She was human, one of only 15 humans at the entire university. She was studying evolutionary biology, which meant she looked at how species changed over millions of years. One day, she came running into the lab, where Hyunwoo was playing with the cubs. "I found something," she said, breathing hard. "Something important." She pulled up images on the big screen. One side showed human DNA, the twisting ladder shape that carried genetic information. The other side showed Vextar DNA. They looked completely different. "Look at this section," Soyeon said, pointing to a specific part. "This controls how brains develop social behavior. How species learn to live in groups." Hyunwoo looked closer. "They look similar." "They're not identical," Soyeon explained. "But they're more similar than they should be. Humans and Vextar evolved on different planets. There's no biological connection. But somehow both species developed similar brain structures for social bonding." Professor Taemin leaned forward, studying the images. "Convergent evolution. When different species develop similar traits because those traits are useful." "Exactly," Soyeon said, her excitement growing. "Both humans and Vextar evolved as pack hunters. Both species survived by working together in groups. Both developed complex social structures based on smell and touch and sound." She pulled up more data. "Humans produce a chemical called oxytocin when we bond with others. It makes us feel happy and connected. Vextar produce a similar chemical called thyrox-7. The molecular structure is almost identical." Dr. Mira entered the lab, her skin glowing bright blue. "I've been analyzing this for weeks. The chemicals aren't exactly the same, but they're close enough that Vextar biology can't tell the difference. To these cubs, humans smell like adult Vextar. We smell like family." "It's an accident," Professor Taemin said slowly. "A biological accident. Humans just happen to produce the right chemicals to trigger Vextar bonding instincts. Or," Soyeon suggested, her voice quiet, "it's proof that some things are universal, that certain traits appear again and again across the galaxy, because they work. Pack bonding, family structures, loyalty. These things aren't just human or just Vextar. They're bigger than that." Hyunwoo listened while Bora climbed onto his shoulders. The cub was getting too big for that, but still tried. "What does this mean for other humans? There are billions of humans in the galaxy now. If we all affect Vextar this way..." The room went quiet. That was the question nobody wanted to answer. Professor Velshara joined them, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Vextar are a protected species. Their homeworld is restricted. No one is allowed to visit without special permission. They've spread to 17 other planets through natural migration, but contact is limited. What happens if humans meet adult Vextar? Dean Crosser asked, entering the lab. These cubs are harmless. Well, mostly harmless. But adult Vextar can kill armed soldiers. They're apex predators across multiple star systems. Professor Taman stood up straight. We need to find out. Under controlled conditions with proper safety measures. We need to know if this bonding effect works with adults. That's dangerous, Professor Velshara said. Adult Vextar don't act like cubs. They're territorial and aggressive. If something goes wrong, people could die. If we don't find out, Professor Taman argued, and humans accidentally encounter adult Vextar in the wild, people could die anyway. Better to learn the truth in a safe environment. Dean Crosser was quiet for a long time. His scales changed color slightly, which meant he was thinking hard. Finally, he spoke. I'll contact the Galactic Council. We'll need permission to visit Vextar Prime. We'll need security, scientists, and volunteers. He looked at Hyunwoo. You're the only human who has spent significant time with Vextar. You understand their behavior better than anyone. Would you be willing to go? Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. Visit the Vextar homeworld? The restricted planet full of apex predators? It sounded terrifying. But he looked down at Hanul, who was looking up at him with trusting eyes. He thought about Bora and Dari, who played with him every day like he was their parent. These creatures had chosen him. They had bonded with him for reasons nobody fully understood. I'll go, he said. Me too, Jiho said from the doorway. Nobody had noticed him enter. If you're going to a planet full of predators, you're not going alone. Professor Taman smiled. We'll put together a team. Scientists, security personnel, and equipment. We'll make this as safe as possible. Over the next 2 months, preparations were made. The Galactic Council debated for weeks before granting permission. The Vextar homeworld was sacred to many species, a symbol of natural evolution untouched by civilization. Allowing visitors was controversial, but the scientific importance won the argument. Understanding the human-Vextar connection could change how the galaxy saw both species. Hyunwoo continued his studies while preparing for the journey. The cubs kept growing. Hanul was now the size of a large wolf. Bora could knock him down when she played too rough. Dari had become his shadow, following him everywhere and growling at anyone who came too close. Soyeon spent hours teaching him about Vextar biology and behavior. They're pack animals, she explained. The pack is everything to them. They'll die to protect their pack members. If they see you as pack, they'll defend you against anything. That's comforting and terrifying at the same time, Hyunwoo said. Welcome to xenobiology, Soyeon replied with a smile. The day before the expedition, Hyunwoo sat with the 3 cubs in his room. They were too big now to all fit on his bed, but they tried anyway. Hanel rested her head on his chest. Bora draped herself across his legs. Dari curled up beside him, one eye always open and watching. I'm going to meet your relatives, he told them. Adult Vextar. I hope they like me as much as you do. Hanul purred, the sound rumbling through the room. The other cubs joined in, creating a symphony of deep, comforting sounds. Hyunwoo closed his eyes and tried not to think about all the things that could go wrong. He tried to focus on what might go right. Maybe, just maybe, this connection between humans and Vextar was the beginning of something amazing. Maybe it would change everything. He fell asleep surrounded by purring predators, dreaming of a planet covered in crystal forests where creatures of legend waited to meet their strange new family member. The research ship was called the Discovery. It hung in space above Vextar Prime like a small silver coin against a massive purple marble. The planet below was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Crystal forests covered most of the land, glittering in the light of 2 suns. Purple oceans moved with strange tides. Somewhere down there, apex predators ruled a world untouched by civilization. Hyunwoo stood at the window looking down at the planet. His reflection stared back at him. He looked scared. He was scared. Stop worrying, Jiho said, putting a hand on his shoulder. We have the best scientists in the galaxy with us. Plus security. Plus fancy equipment. Plus you're basically a Vextar whisperer. What could go wrong? Do you really want me to answer that? Hyunwoo asked. A woman walked up to them. She was human. Tall and strong with short black hair and alert eyes. This was Sumin, the security chief. She had been a soldier before becoming a security officer. She looked like someone who could handle any danger. "Equipment check in 10 minutes," she said. "We land in 2 hours. Remember the rules. Stay with the group. Don't approach any Vextar without permission. If I say run, you run. Clear?" "Clear," both young men said together. The landing team gathered in the briefing room. 15 people total. Professor Taman and Soyan represented the human research team. Dr. Mira and Professor Velshara led the xenobiology team. Suman had 5 security officers with her, all armed with weapons that could stop a charging Vextar. The rest were scientists and technicians. Professor Taman brought up an image of the landing site. "We'll set down in a clearing near the edge of the crystal forest. Sensors show a Vextar pack in the area. 7 adults, 3 juveniles. We'll observe from a distance first. The cubs we brought are staying on the ship," Professor Velshara added. "We can't risk them interfering with wild Vextar behavior." Hyunwoo had said goodbye to Hanul, Bora, and Dari before the briefing. They had not been happy about being left behind. Hanul had whined like a puppy. Dari had tried to follow him out the door. It had been hard to leave them. The shuttle descended through thick clouds. The ride was bumpy and made Hyunwoo's stomach feel weird. Through the windows, he caught glimpses of the crystal forests. They really did look like crystals. Huge structures growing from the ground, reflecting light in rainbow colors. They landed with a soft thump. The shuttle door opened and Hyunwoo smelled the alien planet for the first time. It smelled like rain and metal and something wild he couldn't identify. The air was cool and slightly thin, but humans could breathe it fine. The security team deployed first, setting up sensors in defensive positions. Then the scientists came out carrying equipment. Hyunwoo and Jiho were told to stay in the middle of the group, protected from all sides. The crystal forest was amazing up close. The trees weren't really trees, but massive crystal formations that grew like plants. They made soft musical sounds when the wind blew through them. The ground was covered in purple moss that felt soft under their boots. "Contact," one of the security officers said quietly. "Movement in the forest." Multiple targets, everyone froze. Hyunwoo's heart started beating fast. Through the crystal trees he could see shapes moving. Large shapes. Graceful and powerful. 7 adults confirmed, Suman said, checking her scanner. "They're coming this way, slowly, investigating us." Professor Velshara set up recording equipment. "Everyone remain calm. Don't make sudden movements. Let them approach at their own pace." The first Vextar emerged from the crystal forest. It was huge, much bigger than Hyunwoo had imagined. It stood as tall as a horse but was built like a massive cat. 6 powerful legs, fur that glowed with inner light, and crystal fangs as long as knives. Its eyes were intelligent and alert. More Vextar appeared, the whole pack moving together like they shared one mind. They were beautiful and deadly at the same time. "They're magnificent," Soyan whispered, her voice full of awe. The pack stopped about 50 meters away. The largest one, a female with scars across her sides, stepped forward. She was the alpha, the leader. Her eyes scanned the group of aliens and humans. She sniffed the air. "She's analyzing us," Professor Velshara said quietly, "trying to decide if we're prey, predators, or something else." Professor Taman activated the scent dispersal device. It released a sample of human scent into the air, carried by the wind toward the pack. "This is the moment of truth," he said. For a long moment, nothing happened. The alpha stood still, processing the scent. The rest of the pack waited, following her lead. Then something changed. The alpha's ears perked up. Her body language shifted from cautious to curious. She took a step forward, then another. She made a soft chirping sound. The other Vextar reacted the same way. Their aggressive posture relaxed. They moved forward together, slowly but purposefully. "They're responding," Dr. Mira said, checking her readings. "Their stress hormones are dropping. Bonding chemicals are increasing. It's working." The alpha came closer. She was now only 20 meters away. Close enough that Hyunwoo could see every detail of her scarred face, every glint of her crystal fangs. She did something that made every scientist gasp. She lowered her head. She pulled her ears back. She relaxed her tail. It was a submissive posture, a sign of non-aggression and respect. "Impossible," Professor Velshara breathed. "Alpha Vextar don't submit. They're apex predators. They bow to nothing." But the evidence was right in front of them. The entire pack had adopted submissive postures. They were responding to the human scent the same way the cubs had. The alpha moved closer still, making soft chirping sounds. The sounds were identical to the noises Hanul made when seeking comfort. "She's asking for contact," Soyeon said. "She wants to approach." Professor Taemin looked at Hyunwoo. "This is your decision. We can end the experiment now, or you can do what we came here to do." Hyunwoo looked at the massive predator. She could kill him in seconds. One bite from those crystal fangs would cut him in half. But her body language was the same as Hanul's, the same as Bora's and Dari's. She wasn't looking at him like prey. She was looking at him like family. "I need to remove my helmet," Hyunwoo said. "She needs to smell me directly, not through filters." "That's against protocol," Suman said immediately. "The atmosphere is safe for humans," Professor Taemin said. "And this is why we came. We need to know." Hyunwoo's hands shook as he reached for his helmet seals. The hiss of releasing pressure seemed loud in the quiet forest. He lifted the helmet off. The alien air hit his face, cool and clean and wild. He could smell the crystal forest, the purple moss, the Vextar themselves. They smelled like rain and lightning and something ancient. The moment his unfiltered scent reached the pack, everything changed. The Alpha rushed forward, not attacking, running like a puppy that had been away from home too long. The rest of the pack followed. Hyunwoo barely had time to brace himself before several tons of apex predators surrounded him. The Alpha pressed her massive head against his chest, purring so loudly the ground vibrated. Other pack members rubbed against him, marking him with scent glands, making soft, happy sounds. Jiho removed his helmet too. Immediately, half the pack transferred their attention to him, showing the same affectionate behavior. The security team stood frozen, weapons ready, but not aimed. This wasn't an attack. This was a reunion. "Pack bonding," Professor Taemin said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's not just cubs. Adult Vextar recognize humans as pack members, as family." Soyeon was crying, tears running down her face. "Do you understand what this means? Humans can form bonds with apex predators. We're compatible with one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Dr. Mira's blue skin glowed so bright she looked like a star. "It's proof that evolution creates certain patterns again and again because they work. Pack bonding, family structures, loyalty. These are universal constants." The Alpha Vextar stayed close to Hyunwoo, protective and gentle at the same time. The other pack members took turns approaching, each one wanting to smell him, touch him, acknowledge him as pack. The three juveniles were especially excited, acting exactly like Hanul, Bora, and Dari. They played around the humans, jumped on them, and made happy chirping sounds. Hyunwoo ran his hand along the Alpha's scarred flank. Her fur was softer than he expected, warm and electric against his palm. She purred louder, closing her eyes in contentment. "We're pack," he said quietly. "That's what you're telling me, isn't it? We're family." The Alpha opened one eye and looked at him. There was intelligence in that gaze. Understanding. Agreement. For billions of years, species had evolved alone on separate worlds, but sometimes evolution created bridges, connections that transcended planets and species and biology. Standing in a crystal forest on an alien world, surrounded by apex predators who treated him like family, Hyunwoo understood. This wasn't about humans being special. This was about the universe having rules, patterns that appeared again and again because they were fundamental to life itself. Pack, family, loyalty. These things were universal. 6 months after the expedition to Vextar Prime, Hyunwoo stood on a stage he never imagined he would see. The Galactic Assembly Hall was enormous, big enough to hold representatives from 5,000 different worlds. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into artificial clouds. The walls were made of material that changed color to show the emotions of the crowd. Right now the walls were bright blue. That meant curiosity and hope. Behind Hyunwoo sat Hanul. She was almost fully grown now, huge and powerful, but she sat quietly, her tail wrapped around her body, watching the crowd with calm eyes. She wore a special collar that identified her as a bonded Vextar, not a wild predator. The audience was completely silent. Thousands of aliens from every corner of the galaxy, all watching one human and one Vextar. The speaker of the assembly, an ancient being made of living crystal, gestured for Hyunwoo to begin. His voice would be translated into thousands of languages simultaneously. What he said today would be heard across the entire galaxy. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech 100 times. But standing here with everyone watching, his mind went blank. Then he felt Hanel's tail touch his leg gently, a reminder that he wasn't alone. For billions of years, he began, his voice carrying through the vast hall. Species evolved in isolation. Each world created its own unique life forms. Each species developed its own way of surviving. We thought we were all different, separate, alone in the universe. He paused, looking at the crowd. But my people, humanity, discovered something remarkable. We found that despite evolving on different worlds separated by impossible distances, some things are universal. The walls shifted to green, interest and attention. Humans produce certain chemicals when we bond with others. When we form families and packs, these chemicals make us loyal, protective, and loving. We thought this was unique to humans. But it isn't, he gestured to Hanul. The Vextar, apex predators from a restricted world, produce almost identical chemicals. Their brains developed similar structures to ours. Their social behavior mirrors ours, not because we're related, but because evolution found the same solution to the same problem on two different worlds. Holographic images appeared around him, showing the research data, chemical structures, brain scans, behavioral observations. What does this mean? Hyunwoo continued. It means that pack bonding, family structures, and loyalty aren't human traits. They aren't Vextar traits. They're universal traits. They appear again and again across the galaxy because they work, because they help species survive. The walls turned gold. Agreement and excitement. Today I ask this assembly to approve the establishment of human Vextar cooperation programs. Not as masters and servants, not as researchers and subjects, but as partners, as family. He reached out and placed his hand on Hanul's head. She purred, the sound vibrating through the entire hall. Humans and Vextar can work together in ways no other species can. We understand each other on a fundamental biological level. Together we can accomplish things that neither species could do alone. The vote took 3 hours. Representatives debated and discussed. Some were concerned about the dangers. Vextar were apex predators. What if something went wrong? What if the bonding failed? But the evidence was overwhelming. Months of research had shown that the human-Vextar bond was stable and reliable. Not just with Hyunwoo and Jiho, but with every human who had been tested. Hundreds of humans had now bonded with Vextar, and every bond was strong. When the vote finally came, it was unanimous. Every representative voted yes. The walls turned brilliant white. Joy and celebration. Hyunwoo felt tears in his eyes. Hanul stood and pressed against him, sensing his emotions and offering comfort. This was just the beginning. 1 year later, human Vexatar teams worked across the galaxy. In rescue operations, humans provided strategic thinking and technical skills, while Vexatar used their incredible senses and physical abilities. Together, they saved lives that would have been lost. In exploration missions, the partnership opened up new possibilities. Vextar could survive in environments that would kill most species, while humans could operate complex equipment and make difficult decisions. Together, they mapped unknown regions of space. In security operations, the teams were unmatched. Criminals who thought they could hide found themselves tracked by Vextar and outsmarted by humans. The partnership became famous across the galaxy, but the most important changes happened in smaller, quieter ways. Hyunwoo graduated from the Galactic University with honors. His thesis on human Vextar bonding became required reading for every xenobiology student. He was offered teaching positions at a dozen universities. He chose to stay at his original university, working with Professor Taemin and Soyeon. Together, they established the first department of interspecies bonding studies. Students from across the galaxy came to learn how different species could form deep, meaningful connections. Jiho became a coordinator for human Vextar teams. He traveled between worlds, helping humans and Vextar find compatible partners and form successful bonds. He said it was the best job in the galaxy. Ara, the timid Quellan student who had been terrified during that first lecture, now worked with human Vextar teams regularly. Her skin stayed a confident turquoise color. She said that watching humans and Vextar work together had taught her that fear could be overcome, that different species could find common ground. Professor Velshara admitted that the demonstration had been the most important failure of her career. I thought I was teaching students about predator-prey relationships, she said in an interview. Instead, I discovered something far more important. I discovered that the universe is full of surprises and that our assumptions about species are often wrong. Dr. Mira's research into the chemical basis of bonding led to breakthroughs in understanding how all species connect with each other. Her work helped dozens of species find common ground and form better relationships. Soyun became one of the leading experts on convergent evolution. Her research showed that the human-Vextar connection wasn't unique. Many species across the galaxy had developed similar traits independently. The universe, she proved, followed certain patterns, certain rules. And one of those rules was that social bonding, family structures, and loyalty appeared again and again because they were essential to complex life. On a quiet evening, 5 years after that first lecture, Hyunwoo sat in his office at the university. Through the window, he could see the campus where students from hundreds of species walked together, learned together, and became friends. Hanul lay on the floor beside his desk, fully grown and magnificent. She was massive now, powerful enough to face any threat. But with Hyunwoo, she was gentle and calm. She purred softly, a sound that had become as familiar to him as his own heartbeat. Bora and Dari were elsewhere on campus. Bora worked with the university's exploration program, helping map dangerous terrain. Dari worked with campus security, her protective instincts making her perfect for keeping students safe. But they all came home every night. Because that's what Pac did. That's what family did. Hyunwoo's computer chimed with a message. It was from Earth, from his parents. They had been skeptical when he first told them about bonding with alien predators. But they had visited, met Hanul, and understood. Now his mother sent regular care packages of food, and his father sent messages asking how the kids were doing. Because that's what families did too. Another message appeared. This one was from a young human woman on a colony world. She had just bonded with her first Vextar and was scared. She didn't know what to do. Could Hyunwoo give her advice? He smiled and started typing a response. He told her what he had learned over 5 years. That bonding with a Vextar was scary at first, but it became natural. That the connection went deeper than words or logic. That she would never be alone again because Vextar took family seriously. He told her that she was part of something bigger now. Part of a partnership that was changing the galaxy. When he finished the message, he looked down at Hanul. She was watching him with one eye open, the way she did when she was resting but still alert. We did it, he told her. We changed everything. Hanul's purr grew louder. She stood stretched and pressed her massive head against his hand. Her way of saying she agreed. Her way of saying she was proud. That night, Hyunwoo walked across campus with Hanul beside him. Students waved and called greetings. Some had their own Vextar partners now. The sight of humans and Vextar together had gone from shocking to normal in just 5 years. The universe was changing. Slowly but surely, species were learning that they weren't as alone as they thought. That connections could exist between the most unlikely partners. That family didn't require shared biology, only shared hearts. Professor Taman had said it best in a recent lecture. The universe is vast and full of different species. But the things that matter most, loyalty, love, protection, family, these are universal. They exist in every language. They appear in every corner of the galaxy, because they're not just traits. They're truths. Hyunwoo had come to the Galactic University as a simple student. He had wanted to learn about aliens, to understand the galaxy, to find his place in the vast universe. He had found all of that and more. He had found family in the most unlikely place.
He had found partnership with apex predators.
He had found proof that the universe was more connected than anyone imagined. And it had all started with 3 predator cubs who chose love over instinct, connection over hunting, and family over fear. As he walked through the campus with Hanul by his side, Hyunwoo looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there on thousands of worlds, humans and Vextar were forming bonds, working together, becoming family. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Hyunwoo thought, was exactly how it should be. The end.